not from here as well. And I think, even I said when I ran for public office, is I believe that he needs to be adequately taught on black lives and the lives of the community. And a lot of people, what needs to happen is a lot of young millennials need to be brought to the table when it comes down to the area of policing. Because where I'm from, and the people that I know, the young people I talk to, why don't they want to be police officers? That's something that you ought to have the conversation with them. Why don't they want to be involved? First of all, you got the slango that goes around that says, the F10, which simply says, or F, whatever they call the police.
12.
The 12, yes. And so what they say, why do they say that? What can the police department, those individuals that are liaisons, that will go out in the community, how can they change that? Because nobody, young millennial, want to be a part of what people are cursing against. And so with that being said is, first of all, we got to deal with, while we're shaping the team, how do you deal with the crime that has become now the new norm in Baltimore, 300-something auto homicides? How do we deal with that? And deal with the policing at the same time. You know, that has to be dealt with because you're saying, well, we continue to do a great job, but in my opinion, that's only my opinion, I can't speak for everybody here. I can't say that we're doing a great job. We had a brother here just asking about Freddie Gray's situation, and there are a lot more Freddie Grays that are not known about. You hear a lot of things that are not in this decree or the investigation that the Department of Justice come out with. We've been doing that, so that's no discovery for the citizens of Baltimore, not myself. I too have been a victim, have not been convicted of anything, but have been a victim of police brutality and things like that. And so I have my own views of police and Baltimore City policing, the way that we police here in our community. I do agree that we do need people here in Baltimore that knows these communities, but how do we get them involved? And we need to bring more young people to the table, and no young people. We see some young millennials here, just a few. But what I'm saying is, where are they? How do we go out and reach them? Because they're not here in the meetings. And so again, they're scared for their life. They're afraid. At the same time, they don't know who to trust. Let's be real. It's like you said. It's after 12. It's after 12. But at the same time, I'm scared for my life. So how do we bring that to the table and now deal with that?
Fair enough. Fair enough points. And I wish there were a room full of young people in the room, but there aren't. And I know that we are certainly doing what we can to reach out to young people and have conversations with them. The community mediation was one of the programs that I was talking about, and there are a litany of them, and I can't go down a list of them right here, but to suggest that 300 murders is the new normal, I wouldn't be happy if we were sitting here talking about 200 being the new normal, which has been the norm, unfortunately. So we're doing everything we can to drive down that number because it's unacceptable and no one has accepted it. Everyone knows that. We've talked about it extensively. It's absolutely absurd. There are people getting shot in the head more times than anything. 63% of the murders last year were people who were shot in the head. Over 90% of them look like you, young black men. And that's been the number since at least 1997. I went through the numbers the other day from 97 to today, and it's absurd the amount of young black men who've been taken from these streets. And realistically, we're programmed to look at the number 300 and be outraged by it. But 301 is just as outrageous as 201. That's way too many young brothers getting killed, being killed. And guess what? Most of them between the age of 18 and 34. The young brothers that haven't even had a chance to live yet. And it's not acceptable to anything.
No acceptable. We understand that you can't stop crime, period. And we understand it just can't. It's just not going to go away.
300 is not.
But what I'm saying is, if we've reached this type of level, and it's been, now we're going on 2 years of the same thing. That's where it becomes. It is an issue. You're right. Whether it be 1 or 500, it is a big issue. But what I'm saying is now we've been seeing this. We have, first of all, we hit history in the last one, which was what?
344.
Right. So that hits history since the 1990s. So now we're here, and now we're going back here again.
Unfortunately, just like when the unrest occurred in April, it wasn't one event that sparked the unrest. That was what pushed it over the edge. The murders, sadly, are something that we wish you could just snap our fingers and everything's back to whatever normal is. But it takes, unfortunately, time to get things back to a place where people think that it's normal, because I just, again, if we have 220 homicides, we're working to make sure that number is nowhere close to that the following year. So it's a lot of work. And, you know, we've expressed it. My prayers go out to the Gray family and all of the members of the community who have lost someone, because I've talked to these mothers and talked to these families, and we do a radio show every other week talking about this. And it's sad, and it's ridiculous that young people are taken from us. And regardless of anyone's lifestyle, a mother is a mother, and they shouldn't have to bury their children, and we understand that. Yes.
Could you tell us what day and time and station the program comes on? And also, if you can share with us who are unaware, what are the reasons for these deaths?
For
The
the
shooting in the, for the murder, the shooting in the head among these 18 to
Right.
34.
So we do a show called BPD Case Files on WBAL Radio 1090 every other week, Tuesday at 11:30. And we live stream it on our BPD Twitter and Facebook pages. So it's out there, just an open case, not a necessarily cold case, but an open case that we're trying to get some answers on. But the murders, we talk about retaliatory violence, and everybody in Baltimore, y'all know, we talk about 6 degrees of separation. Everybody knows somebody that knows you. We all know somebody that knows one another. It's less than 6 degrees of separation in just this room. And in the murder game, sadly, it's the same way. A lot of known people, somehow or another, are involved in this criminal activity. And we talk about the 63% headshots last year. 63% of murder victims who were shot in the head last year. That's up close and personal. We're not talking about expert marksmen that are shooting from a distance away. We're talking about people who are comfortable enough to be right up on you. And
you
it's,
know one another.
and in a lot of cases, yes. A lot of cases, yes. And if y'all didn't get an opportunity to do so, Justin George of the Baltimore Sun did a very good, extensive piece on the lethality in Baltimore that's unlike many other places. And back when I was a bit younger in the 80s and 90s, I remember the gun called the Saturday Night Special that they talked about. Justin George mentioned this in his piece. It's like a 25 caliber gun. You get shot with one of those, you might be able to put a Band-Aid on it. And I'm exaggerating a bit. But now you're getting shot with 9mm and calibers more than any other gun. And you're getting shot multiple times, and you're getting shot 60+% of the time in the head. That is very lethal, and that's killing people. They're shooting to kill. That was oddly enough the name of his piece. So we're dealing with people who are settling disputes via the handgun over fists, over a distance type shooting. They're not just shooting at you from a distance.
And
So
do we know whether it's necessarily all drug related, or it could be other reasons?
a lot. It's a myriad of problems, but it is worth pointing out that 85+% of the victims last year have been arrested before. Again, it's troubling, and the average amount of times that the victims have been arrested was 10. So we're not talking 1 or 2 petty crimes. We're talking several times through the system. 10, 11 times was the average amount of arrests. And this is what we're dealing with.
For the victim.
For the victims, yes. And that is concerning. So, unfortunately, like this year, the first few homicides of the year, we're concentrating on geography and people. We know who a lot of these people are with a high propensity to do this, and we're concentrating on those geographies. Officers were actually given foot pursuit to possible suspects because they saw the shots or heard the shots. So, do you have a question?
Yeah, I don't really think that the Baltimore Police Department really wants to stop murders. I mean, from police officers shooting civilians, because if that was the case, most countries, not just this country, you can drop an elephant from 50 years ago with a dart gun, And I mean, if the police department used another apparatus as opposed to a lethal force, because they don't get up, but if the elephant got up. See what I'm saying?
I hear what you're saying.
And I'm seeing that a police department has never even considered, even if they considered just 10% of the city, and they said, well, we will experiment on this, then that would be an improvement. You understand what I'm saying?
Isn't that a decree,
Use of force.
Yeah.
Our use of force policy has changed dramatically last year, July 1st of last year it went into effect. It was completely overhauled. And it's new reporting mechanisms, and the complaints are down. The numbers already are in to show the improvements. Again, these are things that we didn't wait for, but it also is going to mandate some more de-escalation training for officers to, again, it comes back to understanding, it comes back to communication, it comes back to learning and training. So those things are absolutely built into the consent decree. Yes, ma'am.
Can you name 5 things in the consent decree that you all are mandated to do? You named one in terms of the de-escalation training. What are some other things? Just name about 5 things so we can get a sense of just what specific things the department is doing.
So technology is a big one. The city is going to have commitment to technology to improve the way records are kept and things like that in Baltimore. Hiring and retention, recruitment. Again, concerted efforts to get the right people in place to be Baltimore City police officers for years to come. Again, that comes with time. These things aren't going to happen overnight. The training, as we say, is very important. Training is probably a huge chunk of it to make sure the best practices are already in place and that officers are learning those and getting those. And we are mandated to make sure those implementations are in place. Stop searches, arrests, and voluntary police community interactions. We have certain documentation that must be done in these scenarios, and again, you're mandated to do it. And you might have heard and seen some things about a monitor. There's going to be a monitor assigned. That's the name that the DOJ assigns to it. A person that's going to observe, interact with the city, with the agency, to ensure that the compliance is met. And it's not about, oh, we're getting there, we got a B. No, we have to be A+ students. And that's what we are striving towards as we move forward with this as a guide. And we didn't wait for this document to come in order to start doing that. We had people traveling across the country to cities who had consent decrees put in place and started working on that immediately to start to get in front of it and get ahead of it. So it's the community police and community engagement, community oversight task force. These are things that you're going to continue to hear more and more about, because you have to understand that this is new, so to speak. So a lot of this stuff is going to be talked about, it's going to be built upon as we move forward. And the commissioner and the mayor couldn't have been any more supportive and work with the DOJ to get this done. They acknowledged that a great deal in their announcement last week.
Do all the officers have body cameras then?
All the officers will have body cameras, and that was something that was rolled out last year. Right now, over 600 officers have body cameras, and by 2018, every officer will have body cameras. So that's something that was done well ahead of this consent decree, and we're probably going to be the largest agency with a full rollout of body cameras in the country. And to Mayor Stephanie Rawlings-Blake's credit, she had a task force group set up to examine body cameras and make sure our investment was the right investment. And we are already seeing engagements between people. It's different, and everyone acts differently. It's not just the police officer acting different. A citizen acts different when they know that they're being recorded, and that just lowers tensions right then and there in certain situations.
Yes, do the police department have any idea how them kids get all those guns, the weapons? And do they have any idea how they get into the city?
Yeah, that's always a big question, and you know, and the communication that goes on around these topics is endless. You know, if you hear of a gun shop getting burglarized in another state, we are getting alerts about that. And one